Good evening, I'm Lospavia, and today we're going to have a look at a vintage Ekco 5-foot fluorescent lamp. This particular lamp was salvaged by someone I know from a skip back in the early 1980s, we believe. It was used in their car workshop for many years. The amount of cars that must have been repaired under this rolled into the thousands. Obviously he found it in a skip in the early 80s. So it was well past its life expectancy by the time he found it, and it was used up until about last year. So we'll have a little look at it and then we'll wire it up and see it in action. So we've got the plastic end caps typical of the era, used on many different marks of fluorescent light that simply bend back a little bit to allow the inlet of the bulb. You can see it's very heavily residue of paint from the building it would have been in originally, and there's a mark here where some PVC tape had been used to secure the lamp. And as we can see, the screw is intact here, so this side was working. May have not been mounted properly at one point and just had that wrapped around it. Moving along, we can see pressed into the lid, disconnect from supply before servicing. Now interestingly, we can see here the British standard number BS3820. Now BS3820 helps us date the lamp. That's a standard for light fittings dating from 1964, which was then superseded in 1975. So we know it's from that kind of era. And here is the Ekco logo. As we can see, it's narrowly missed, being covered in grey paint. Ekco been around for many years. They're making radios in the war. Not too sure when they got swallowed up or went out of business. Here you can see a much more recent starter. It's a new in air one. See, the whole fluorescent fitting is discoloured from its original white. You can see the captor screw fittings missing there, and again we've got the plastic cap at this end. So I've already released the screw. We'll pull the lid off and see what we've got inside. Try and do this one-handed, I do apologise. There we go. Okay, so inside we've got some blue and black cable feeding the actual bulb holder, which is held on by a spring at this end to allow us to flex it. It's a stiff cable. I believe it's actually aluminium, from having seen the connections on this previously, covered in an early sort of PVC type material. Got a large capacitor here. Don't know if you can quite make that out. It's a TMC, I believe. Coming to here, we start to see where the flex would have entered the light fitting here. And here we've got the original chock block, which is live there. There's an earth tag in the middle to connect the protective earth to the fitting. The neutral is actually missing a screw, so someone's put a separate chock block in for that. Now rotating over to this side, we can see the all-important choke. This is the 65-watt choke. As you can see, it's got part number there, made in Great Britain by British Lighting Industries Limited. And that's the Thorn logo, so I can only assume, without checking, that that was an early name for Thorn EMI, or one of the many subsidiary earlier companies that they had. And we just follow it there to the end of the fitting. Okay, so what we're going to do is use this plug and this piece of flex here to connect this light back up to the mains, pop in the 5-foot tube, and just see how it goes. We know it's the latest, it would be 1975, 85, 95, 2005, 2015. It's at least 40 years old, but we can realistically imagine it dates from late 60s, early 70s, anywhere between 40 and 50 years old. Okay, so I'll put this on here and we'll get to work. So we are back with the 5-foot fluorescent light fitting of a fine 60s, 70s vintage. Just to recap, it was taken out of use in the 80s. It was reused right up until last year, 2015, 2016. And here it is in my house waiting its next use. So we've connected up a bit of mains flex, we've put a 3 amp fuse in it, we've done a quick check for earth continuity just to reassure us that the metal casing is okay and that the earth connection is good. We've put the 5-foot tube back in it, and here we go. Look at that. Now I've obviously worked with a lot of fluorescent lights, and most of the modern ones that I've used, every few of them fail. A lot of them can be very slow to start. We're talking about a lamp that was made before computers were mainstream, before everyone had mobile phones. It's been turned on and off thousands and thousands of times. It's got its original choke in it. It's got all its original wiring, and there it is, started straight away. I'll just turn off the main light. You may not be able to hear it on this camera, but there's a slight hum, buzz coming off the ballast, which is kind of to be expected. But that's really nothing. That's fantastic. Now there's thousands of these lamps still in use. You see them quite a lot in car, MOT stations, really old offices, and to be honest, that's really good reliability. So as you can see, battered up old lamp, still going strong, and having now been destined for the skip once in the 70s, 1980s, having been destined for the skip again last year, I'm now waiting to put it back in use for another 30 or 40 years. All the best.